Hey, this is James Pelton, and a video I wanted to do today. There's a lot of talk about Ponzi schemes, and is this a Ponzi? Is that a Ponzi? So I wanted to talk through just what exactly is a Ponzi scheme and kind of my thoughts around it. And then I'm actually going to go through some projects that you might know and kind of talk about how much of an element of Ponzi is in what they're doing. Okay, and I have my spreadsheets ready to go here today, firing on all cylinders. So get ready for that. It should be pretty exciting. So again, if you like this educational content, please hit the like button. I would appreciate that. And comment down below what you agree with, what you disagree with. I'm happy to discuss, but don't be a jerk, okay? Don't just say, James, you're an idiot. I try to not let those things bother me, but you know, they do at times. So respectfully leave your comments whether you agree or disagree. I would appreciate that. So what is a Ponzi scheme? Well, there was a businessman in the 1920s. His name was Charles Ponzi. That's where the name came from. And he told investors that he was selling discounted postal reply coupons. Okay, I don't totally know what those are. I don't think they exist anymore. You can go look it up if you want to learn more about those. But he told people that that's what he was selling, and so that's how they were getting returns, okay? He said, you give me money, I'm going to do this with it, and I'll give you returns. And the returns he were promising was 50% in 45 days or 100% in 90 days. So he was promising that he would double your money in 90 days. Okay, and that might sound familiar from the crypto world. But in reality, he was not selling discounted postal reply coupons. Probably he didn't even know what those were. But in reality, he was just taking new people as they signed up and as they gave him money to invest. He was just taking their money and paying off old investors. Okay, and it only lasted about a year before an investigative journalist kind of found out what was going on and exposed the whole thing. And then Charles Ponzi ended up going to prison for 5 years. Okay, so that's the original. That's where the name comes from, Ponzi scheme. I'm sure they existed before then, but he's kind of the one who gave it its name. And then probably the biggest Ponzi scheme that we've seen here in the States, Bernie Madoff in 2008 was arrested for what he was doing was he was looking at what stocks had good returns. So he took investors' money. He looked at what stocks got good returns for the past 6 months. Then he would make a financial statement for his investors and say, oh yeah, the ones that did well, those were the ones that I was in. When in reality, he was just taking new investors' money and giving it to the old investors. But then on paper, it was looking like, hey, I'm getting, 30% returns in the stock market on these blue chip stocks. And he actually did that for about 30 years before it finally caught up with him. Then he was sent to prison also. So Ponzi's, that one lasted for 30 years. And was still okay. So before we start talking about some projects and again, just how Ponzi's work exactly, things to look out for in a Ponzi scheme is number one, a guaranteed promise of high return with little risk. Okay, so if you get into any project and they guarantee a high return and they talk about how little risk there is, that should be a red flag. Okay, if there's high return, by necessity, there has to be high risk. That's just how returns work, okay? So if something's out of sync there where you're getting high returns and little risk, then there's something messed up, okay? That's a red flag. Another red flag is if you're getting a consistent return regardless of market conditions. Okay, that should be a red flag because that's not how things work. I much prefer projects that have a variable return that's based on how the project actually did. And we'll talk about how this works in a spreadsheet before too long. Another red flag is if how they're making revenue is described as too complex or something like that, or you don't understand it and there's not really answers given. That's something I look out for. And then another one is difficulty getting your money out. Okay, so if it's easy to cash in, hard to cash out, that's something that you should be alert to. So one example of, red flags in a project that did end up kind of rug pulling was Hyperverse. Okay, so that was a project I was involved with, and I don't need your comments saying, James, you're an idiot. It was obviously a scam. Okay, hindsight is 2020. Lessons learned, but they guaranteed 0.5% return a day. They said it was low risk. You're going to always get it. It didn't matter what market conditions were. We're always going to get 0.5% return. And it was very easy to get money in, but it was almost impossible to get money out. Okay. So again, it should have all been red flags, but they ended up, it seems like it was a Ponzi where it ended up, they didn't have enough to cover the payments of the old investors. And so they had to close up shop. Okay. And I'm going to move my face over to this side of the screen so you can see this spreadsheet. Okay, so first I want to clarify, I believe, and again, you can disagree, this is all just my opinion. I think there's a difference between just a Ponzi and a Ponzi scheme, okay? Because there's some projects that are paying off investors with new investors, but they're upfront about what they're doing there. So from my perspective, it would be hard to call that a scheme. If we define what scheme means, okay, and actually the British definition is not going to be helpful. That's actually good. But making plans, especially in a devious way or with intent to do something illegal or wrong. Okay, so if you're upfront about being a Ponzi, I still don't think that's a good idea, but I don't think it's a Ponzi scheme. I just think it has Ponzi elements to it. Okay, we might say that. So I wanted to start first with just one of these miners. Okay, so miner BNB. I don't know if you remember, these were all the rage during the bull market. I'm not even going to post a link to this because I don't really even want you to go here. But it's basically just you put in money that fills up the contract and new people come in, keep filling up the contract. You're getting 16% a day. And when the contract runs out, then you're out. Okay, you're out. There's no more money to be given. Okay, and you can see there's only one BNB in the contract currently, so it would run out very quickly. So I just want to kind of show you how the mathematics work. Again, these are not exact maths. I found out in British you can use maths plural. But these are not exact maths, so don't look at my spreadsheet and say, hey, that's not how it works. But if you have 1,000 investors who put in $500, that means your contract balance is going to be 500,000. Okay, you have no revenue as one of these miners. Your daily return is 16%, which means that each day you're going to need to give away $80,000, okay? 16% for each of these people that put in. What that means is that you have 6.26 days. If no new investors come in, you can only give out returns for 6 days. And in order to keep this going, you need 160 investors a day putting in that $500, or else the contract is going to go down and you're going to start reaching this runway. Okay, so that's how the math works out on this. Unless you have 160 people coming in every day, this contract balance is going to go down. It's down to 1 BNB now. So I mean, don't put money in here. It'd be terrible. There's no revenue coming in. So 6 days, you're going to be out of money. Okay, I call that just a straight Ponzi. Okay, and it still might work, especially if you're in early. I mean, if you're in early and you get this 6 days of runway, I mean, you'll get your money back pretty much. Okay, if you're the first person in, you'll get your money back. If you're the first person in, you have 1,000 people come in, no new people come in, you will get your money back in a straight Ponzi like this. Okay. Now, again, the alarm things that you should be looking for, 16% guaranteed. It's like there's obviously no way that they can do that. And market conditions don't matter. No way that that would work. This is not something that I would invest in. But that's kind of how the math works. Okay. Now you can add things to your project to make the runway longer. So one of them is you can give lower rewards. So if you weren't given 16% rewards, if you were giving 1% rewards, you see your runway goes from 6 days to 100 days. So by just going down in return, that extends your runway. Okay. Another thing you can do, I'm gonna call this, and this might be controversial, but don't worry, I say good things about Drip in the future because I understand there are revenue streams coming. But for now, I'm going to call it a Ponzi with taxes. Okay, so what Drip has done, again, we'll use the same numbers, 1,000 people put in $500, no revenue coming in yet. Daily return, actually, we're going to put 0.09, no revenue yet. We're going to put the return at 0.009 because there is the tax, okay? So your runaway is 123 days. So really the only difference is when you add that tax, you go from 111 days to 123 days. Okay, so when you add that tax, it extends the runway. Okay, so I would call that a Ponzi with taxes. And you see, you need 8 new investors with these numbers to keep it going. Okay, so you see, you need a lot less. Again, with this one, you need 160 a day to keep it going. This one, you only need 8 a day to keep it going with these numbers. This is not real drip numbers. I'm just giving an example. And before you comment about, no, drip has revenue streams coming, just wait, okay? I'll talk about that here in a minute. So next I wanted to talk about is like a play to earn game, okay? How I kind of think through that. So again, same numbers here. They have a little bit lower daily return. When you're talking about currencies, it's possible to have different currencies in an ecosystem, okay? That's like how a restaurant works. So a restaurant has 2 currencies. It has money as a currency, and it also has food as a currency. Where Ponzi's don't really work is if everybody is in there only trying to make money and there's no other currencies in there, like food or an iPad or something like that. Like I've heard people say Apple is a Ponzi scheme because people need to come in to buy products. But the difference is not everyone in the Apple ecosystem is looking for money. Some are looking for a product. So if you can ever trade product or food or time or a different currency, then it makes the ecosystem work better. So in the case of a play to earn game, the currency that is in there is fun, okay? That's the currency that is in the ecosystem. So now there's 2 currencies in a play to earn game. There's fun and money. Okay, so some people are playing to make money, some people are playing to have fun. The problem we've had with play to earn games is they haven't been fun at all, okay? But as soon as we're able to start getting some fun in these games, there will be money to be made because some people will be playing for fun, some people will be playing to make money. So the way the economy works in something like Axie Infinity is you kind of have this revenue stream of people playing for fun, we'll say. And what that does is it just makes the runway a little bit longer. So it's 143 days. You only need 7.5 new investors instead of 8 for drip. So when you have that second currency in, that makes it more sustainable all around. Okay, the next example that we have is a Ponzi with taxes and a liquidity manager and some revenue. Okay, and this starts to get very difficult to do on a spreadsheet. So again, please don't comment about how wrong my spreadsheet is. This is the worst. But let's say we'll have the same numbers, $500, 1,000 people put in. They have a little bit of revenue from their LMS. So we'll say $100. Again, these numbers are not exact. I'm just kind of showing how you can think through how these numbers work. They give out the 1%, but there's the 10% tax. And then let's also add in $500 a day in the liquidity manager, buying and selling. Okay, so again, Horde has in place when the price gets up above a certain range, they sell it. And when it gets below a certain range, they buy it. Okay, and so what that does is it keeps the price in a range, and it also provides a little boost when it gets down here. So we'll call it LMS buybacks. Okay, so we'll say that's $500 a day. So what that results in is you have just a longer runway. So you have 147 days. And again, this is not exact, but you have 147 days of runway before you, that's if no new people come in. You need about 8 a day to kind of match what the numbers that we have up here. And, I didn't figure into this spreadsheet again because it was getting too long. But another thing to consider is Drip and Horde also have end dates for these people. Okay, so that too is going to make the runway go out even longer. So, and then here I want to show a Ponzi with a lottery. Okay, so you have your economy here, which is kind of Ponzi based, but then anytime you add any utility to that ecosystem, whether it just be something, the simplest is a lottery. That seems to be what most people add in. But anytime you add something like that, it will say it brings in a certain amount of revenue. It's something else for the money to do rather than just be sold. That doesn't really make the whole ecosystem more sustainable per se, but it does increase your runway days. So again, if you didn't have that lottery, you only have 100 days of runway. With the lottery, you add 11 days. And instead of without the lottery, you need 10 a day. With the lottery, you only need 9 a day. Okay, so you'll see a lot of projects add more. They add a lottery. And then like we've seen with EMP, they add the detonator and the reactor and all these different things. And each of those kind of extends this runway to make it last longer. So again, lest you think I was talking bad about Drip, One thing that I don't think is necessarily wrong is using Ponzi-nomics as while you try to build a revenue stream. Okay, and that's what a lot of these projects do. Now, what I don't like is when a project scrambles to create a revenue stream. I don't mind if there's Ponzi-nomics while they're trying to build a revenue stream. I don't really like it when they were planning on being Ponzi based and then now they're in a panic mode trying to create revenue streams. Okay, so Drip, I think, has done a good job of, hey, they're Ponzi-nomics while they're building some revenue streams. Okay, so again, you have the 500,000. We'll put in the daily return again of 0.9. So you have 111 days, and basically they have this many days. They have their runway to start to generate revenue. Okay, whether that be through, I think they're doing scratch tickets that's going to be kind of like a lottery. They're adding a yield farm, which that's going to add some revenue. So again, they're building the ecosystem bigger and bigger. But basically they were using Ponzi-nomics with taxes to make the runway longer until they could build a revenue stream. And actually, this is done in the regular investing world all the time. Like you might have Series A investors who give you some runway until your Series B, and then you might even pay some of the Series A investors with Series B. But it's not a Ponzi scheme because there is a plan for a revenue stream and you're being upfront about what all is going on there. Okay, then the last type of project that I want to talk about, and this is my favorite right now because it does well in all markets, is one where there just is revenue, okay? Where there's revenue that you're not given a guaranteed return, so you don't have to worry about the revenue being higher than the return that's given. They're just giving the actual results of what they're giving. So I think Project 79 is a good example of this, although they're new. You could do, again, Yield Nodes, Goldbridge, Novatech, Freeway. The problem with some of these is you don't know exactly how much is Ponzi and how much is revenue. You don't exactly know what this number is on a lot of these. But again, same numbers. You have 500,000 from 1,000 people putting $500 in. And I understand these numbers don't work with Project 79, and this doesn't include fees or anything like that. But then let's say they got a 7% return, okay? So that 500,000, they got a 7% return. Well, they're probably taking a little bit for themselves, but they're just giving out the return that they got. So what we end up with is there's actually no money leaving the pool. Okay, so the runway days is actually an error because you're dividing by 0. So there's an infinite runway. They don't need any new investors to do what they're doing because they're just giving out the actual yields of their revenue. And again, new investors needed daily is 0. Don't need any new investors. Okay, so and this is if you look at my top projects, they're all this type of project. Okay, where there is just revenue. You're getting the actual results from the revenue that they're generating. I think that's the safest. I am okay with these. I'm okay with these that they're Ponzi's, but they're building a revenue stream. It's like, okay, I'm in early. There's opportunity. Again, these numbers would look even better if I figured in the fact that you have a max payout on your drip. But yeah, those are okay. I don't like them as much as these, but they're okay. Some of these projects that are trying to figure out utility, yeah, they're adding, lotteries and games and pretty much just anything that they can do to add on to the ecosystem to make that runway longer while they're trying to figure things out. Horde is another one. So again, just looking at the Horde chart. So again, they have a line up here and a line down here. If it gets above this line, they sell and fill up the treasury. If it gets below this line, they buy and take away from the treasury. And what this does, what we normally see with the token before this liquidity manager is you just see a token pump way up. Okay, this is what we saw with Drip, where it goes way up to $180, $190. But then if you're not hitting this number, the number needed to keep the balance in a normal token without the liquidity manager, when you hit up to $180, then you're not meeting the numbers that you need to keep it going. So then the price drops. So what Horde did was instead of letting it pump, they just sell as it gets up there. And so what that does is that makes the runaway even longer. Okay, it basically provides a revenue stream to make the runway longer. Okay, so that was very smart. I think that's a good idea. So they did taxes and a liquidity manager, and now they have revenue. Okay, and the revenue is not quite matching up with what they're giving out. But again, that's what they're building towards. So definitely don't mind this type of project either. And you'll notice if you look at my top 10 projects, you'll notice that it's those types of projects. So Yield Nodes gives actual revenue. Horde is building actual revenue, but they have a really good liquidity manager. Goldbridge is giving actual revenue. DAG doesn't give any revenue, really. Lattice Exchange doesn't give any revenue. I do like Drip, just because I think they're building revenue streams, and they've proven to be one of the most, they've lasted the longest with the runway that they have. Trading bots are obviously giving the results, and then Freeway is giving their actual results as well. So the projects that I really don't like right now, I don't like play to earn games right now unless they're fun, okay? Unless you have that other revenues, unless you have that other currency of it's fun, there's just no reason that people would do anything except for try to make money. And that's what we saw in a lot of the play to earn games, is it just turned into a selling fest because no one was playing to have fun. They were just playing to make money, and that's not going to work. And then obviously these straight Ponzis have not worked either. Okay. No revenue stream, no plan for a revenue stream. If you want to mess around with these, I would call this very degen. If you're one of the first people in, then yeah, you can make a whole bunch of money. You compound for a few days. This contract balance gets up high. You can make a lot of money in these, but you'll notice none of those are going to be in my top projects, right? I just don't think they're very good. So I hope this was helpful for you. Okay, I just kind of wanted to show you, these are things I've been thinking about. I just want to show you how I think through projects and their tokenomics. Feel free to leave in the comments below. Please hit like and let me know if you disagree. Like, it's fine. Maybe I need to learn more, teach me, tell me something. Would love that. Let me know if there's projects that hey, take a look at this project. Do you think it's Ponzinomics, or what do you think about it? I'm happy to talk through that. But yeah, I appreciate you guys and hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.